In Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live inside Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators will host the Ottawa Senators tonight at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. A special occasion tonight. Roman Josi scheduled to play game number 1,000 in the NHL, and we will discuss that milestone later in the program. Sportsnet's Elliotte Friedman will join us at 5 o'clock for his weekly chat as we go around the NHL. But gentlemen, it is finally official. Robert Saleh, officially the Tennessee Titans head coach. A news release was sent out within the past 30 minutes. Robert Saleh will be introduced next Wednesday at 2 p.m. here in Nashville. I understand it has something most likely to do with the weather heading our way. But Robert Saleh, his introductory news conference, with the Titans is scheduled for next Wednesday at 2 p.m. We do have a statement. We have multiple statements, but here is the statement from Amy Adams Strunk. Quote, "We're delighted to welcome Robert and his family to the Titans and firmly believe he is the right person for our team and community. We immediately connected with his competitive spirit and detailed approach to developing our players and team. Also, Robert's recommendations from across the league were overwhelmingly positive and were only reinforced during our time together. I want to thank Mike Borgonzi for his leadership during this process and acknowledge the work done by the search committee. They dedicated so much time and effort, and I am thrilled with the results, and most importantly, I believe Titans fans will be too. Congratulations to Robert and his family, and welcome to Nashville." End quote.
Well, she's excited to have her head coach. What is this? Like, I don't know what number of head coaches this is for this.
Well, it's the 20th of the
20th
franchise.
20th.
If you go back to the Oilers.
And it's the third for her, fourth for her, somewhere around there, as far as head coaches. I hope this does work. I mentioned to you, Adam, before we got on, I said the picture they posted was like as if that man walked out of the casino and just won about $5-10 million because he looks good.
Well,
he's ready to roll.
$5 to $10 million.
Hey, that glow is on him right now. But I really do hope this works because I think the fan base deserves for this to work. I think that young team deserves for this to work. We thought they had it in prior years, but they end up, not being able to make it work in the end. And then she tried it 2 years ago, and it didn't work. Hopefully this time, we can start talking about this team the way we talk about some of the other upper echelon teams.
I feel like she avoided the traps in the press statement there. That she didn't have anything that has everybody going, what?
Yeah.
But I also think that Robert Saleh has a better opportunity to succeed because he's getting it after you hope things bottomed out, as opposed to Callahan, who they already put under the behind the eight ball.
Oh yeah,
because they didn't even say we're rebuilding. They at the time said, well, we've got a great up and coming young quarterback, and Mike. They kind of intimated Mike Vrabel's time was gone. It was time to move something forward. We've got some good young players. Like they tried to convince themselves even that they weren't rebuilding. Now, after a clear rebuild and hopefully bouncing off of the bottom, Saleh has a chance to, I think, stack together some seasons of growth. Much, much better than Callahan. He's in a better position to start with, I think.
I am looking at Amy Adams Strunk's statement after the Titans hired Brian Callahan. It's much longer than the one she had in this news release.
So let's give her credit, I guess, for learning her lesson.
Yes, man. Looking back at this Brian Callahan news release,
that does not just read it. It doesn't sound like a team that knows the window is shut on an era with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. It's more of a hey, this next guy is going to lead us back.
Here's part because I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's longer, but here's part of that news release. That statement, quote, "Brian has a track record of success and a range of experience that has prepared him for this opportunity. His football knowledge and his enthusiasm for the game really stand out. And beyond that, we think his ability to lead will make him the ideal fit for our franchise. If you look at his history, Brian has been a part of a Super Bowl winning team, Denver, 2015, and another team that advanced to the Super Bowl, Cincinnati, 2021. He's worked in a variety of dynamic offenses with top flight quarterbacks. At each step of his career, he's shown the flexibility and intelligence to make an impact.
It didn't work
hindsight
that way.
2020. I didn't have any problem with that part of the statement. Honestly, that wasn't what it was. It was just more of what the expectations were.
Yeah, I think they were. I think because of how everything went down with Vrabel, I think they tried to convince themselves that they were still in win now mode.
They could still win the AFC
exactly
South.
Because Vrabel's gone, and what if he gets another job and they win all of a sudden? We are in win mode now, so we want to go out and get the free agents that hopefully can make that happen, and it didn't. And this one, to me, this is different. In regards to the hiring, I think it is a total 180. I think it's night and day. For this main reason, you talked about somebody in Callahan that was closely associated with people, that was around things, but never in control. Robert Saleh, he's been to a Super Bowl. I think with San Francisco he went during his coaching, not when he was at DC, or at least the NFC Championship game. But he has commanded and he has orchestrated top-ranked defenses.
He was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers when they went to the Super Bowl at the end of the 2020 season.
Exactly. So you got a guy that was closely associated with people and that was a part, and then another guy that had his hands in it. He was the actual guy that was calling plays on the defensive side of the ball for a defense that was ranked in the top 5 when he was with San Francisco. So that's why I look at this a lot different than what I looked at the Brian Callahan situation, because Brian was associated, and I talked about that whole time, him being associated to Peyton Manning, Drew, these other guys, these quarterbacks, and coaching them. But did he really teach them anything from the aspect of them being the player that they are? It was more so of them teaching him because he was so young. This with Robert Saleh, you have a guy that was a general of a defense that was top ranked. And everywhere that he's commanded a defense, it's been top ranked. So we know that part of the ball he can get right. He know how to coach and get men to do what they're supposed to do. Now he needs to be able to do it across the board and not just on the defensive side.
Here's the part of the Callahan statement that Willie might be referring to. Quote, as we seek sustained success and pursue a championship, Brian has seen firsthand what that looks like, and he is the right person to lead us there. Again, that did not work out. But again, hindsight is 2020. Some instant reaction to that statement from Amy Adams Strunk on her text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter says, blah, 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 blah. Carbon copy statement. Another texter says, please, Amy can lick a butt cheek.
It's not a carbon copy statement of what she did this go around. I think, like Willie said, for some reason, they were still in this we can win mode. Like, we can win big. And to everybody else, they were looking at it like, this roster isn't prepared to win in the long run. Y'all got to retool some things. Y'all got to rebuild. And they just were not there. I think now they're in a better place. Like Willie said, they're in a better place now, albeit it's not like night and day in a sense, but they do have better talent, young talent, than they had when Callahan took the job.
And if they win 6 or 7 games next year, which I think is reasonable, then it looks good. The first year will look really good compared to the previous 2. And then the key is, at that point, can the roster be to a place, and can Ward be in a place where you can then go win and get to the playoffs? Because it's a process, right? You got to then
bringing in a right free agent.
We've always said, it doesn't take much to go from the very bottom to the middle. It's going from the middle to the top. That's the tough part.
Mike Borgonzi has a statement as well. He says, in part, quote, Robert embodies the fundamental values of what we believe a Titan should look like and represent. He's smart, tough, dependable, and values working with people. His innate ability to lead and respond to adversity is what makes him the right person to lead our football program back to one whose identity embodies sustainable success. We understand the urgency to win and believe this is a step in that direction with a coach best equipped to accomplish our goals. The work has just begun, but I'm grateful for this partnership and excited to build this together. We also received some other news today, per multiple reports, some staff changes for the Tennessee Titans. Unsurprisingly, Nick Holtz and Denard Wilson are out as offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, respectively. John Fossil is expected to remain on Saleh's staff as special teams coordinator.
So they haven't made a decision on Bo Hardegree yet.
I have not seen anything on Hardegree.
I think Hardegree may have earned himself the right to stay on this coaching staff because of what he did, help do the second half. Now, we knew they were not going to keep all of the offensive staff, but I think a guy like Bo Hardegree, if you put him as the quarterback's coach, I think that would be beneficial for Cam because he did improve that second half of the season. Now, I don't know if it was all Bo Hardegree, but he was the play caller. Or was it more McCoy because McCoy has done that before? But I'm not surprised with the other, especially not Denard Wilson, because I knew eventually Denard wants to call plays, and he's not going to get a chance to do that here.
And Denard Wilson, Willie, I think deserves credit for making the most out of a terrible situation. By the end of the season, and we're going to talk about Robert Saleh's defense this hour. By the end of the season, Denard Wilson had practice squad players basically playing for him at defensive back. And I thought he made the best out of a terrible situation. So,
yeah, I think he did enough, in my mind, to warrant getting another chance at this. I would like to see a Denard Wilson defense with the right personnel for what he wants to do. He tried to make the most of what he had, and I thought he did a reasonable job. I don't know if he was awesome or anything like that, but I think he did a nice job, not a poor job at all. And I think that leads us into what should the expectation level be for the defense with Saleh, who comes with a lot of pedigree, but we know they got a lot of holes from a talent standpoint on that side of the ball. It's Jeffrey Simmons, and then you look around and, all right, Cody Barton and Cedric Gray, not bad. Can he get a lot out of T. Sweat? What does T. Sweat look like in 3 years? But then after that, it starts getting murky of what you have, right? In terms of guys who move the needle. I don't know if they have anybody.
You got young projects. Femi, that's going to be what he's going to do with Femi.
Great
You're switching defenses.
Winston, the safety.
Winston,
what can you
another
make
guy.
out of him?
So Winston seemed to be turning into a player. Then he ends up getting injured. So
do you have any corners?
Yeah, that's where it's looking kind of
no.
That's where it's looking kind of tough because right now you don't have.
You got some serviceable guys, but you don't have anybody that you really feel like, okay, here's
that can hold up and do what he needs to do for 17 games.
One texter says, I want Mike McCoy to be retained in some capacity just to watch Paul Kaharski freak out over it. I don't think Mike McCoy is sticking around. I don't know what's next for Mike McCoy.
No, I don't. Listen, if management brought him in, there could be a place for him on the staff. He doesn't have to be, an everyday guy, but I'm sure his expertise in quarterbacks and everything else makes him viable to the team in some aspect, if indeed they choose to keep him. I don't know if they will. Maybe he goes and becomes a consultant for another team. They always make up titles, so you never know what title he's given if he stays here or if he goes to another team. But I think he at least has earned the right, just like Bo Hardegree. If indeed they choose to put him on the staff in some capacity, then that's cool.
Would it shock you to learn that Mike McCoy is 53 years old?
Man, he looks much older than that.
He's only 53 years old.
He's a young man.
All season long.
He runs the stadium stairs before every game.
Yeah.
All season long, I thought he was like 65.
I think you age faster when you coach.
I'm sure you do. You don't get much sleep.
Like I remember looking at Rick Pitino one time. He came up as a real young coach, right? He did Providence and then the Knicks when he was real young. He's still in his 30s, I think. And then not that long after, you look at it, it's like, man, there's a lot of gray in there, man. It's a lot of stress.
So, but
still going. He's still going.
One texter says, Denard Wilson is my neighbor. He's such a nice guy, really great dude. Sucks for him. This franchise ruins people.
It's unfortunate, but these are the chances that unfortunately, when you're coming up in this business, you have to take. If you are a DC or young, DC, and you want to eventually become a head coach, you need to, unfortunately, sometimes you got to take on tasks like Denard Wilson did. Now, at the beginning of the season, it looked great because everybody was healthy. You thought Snead was going to be out there. You thought, Sweat was going to be healthy. You had all of this promise from a roster at the beginning of the season, and then you trade away Brownlee, and then Snead can't play, and then this guy goes down, and that guy, and that guy. Then you bring in this guy from somebody else's practice squad. It went from being okay to being really, really bad.
If there is something worse than a preseason roster,
Mhm.
that's sort of what the Titans had
Yeah.
on defense at the end of the season. Justin Strickland says on our text line, here's what I'd like to see next. It's a long list.
Oh.
1, hire Dayball OC. 2, sign
Okay.
Jawan Jennings. 3, sign Brees Hall. 4, sign Tariq Woolen. 5, bring KB back home. 6, draft Ruben Bain. Unlikely to get it all, but gotta aim high. Well, I appreciate you aiming for the stars, Justin, and we will touch on some of those topics that you just listed throughout the show. 615-737-1025. One texter says, we do have a lockdown corner in L'Jarius Sneed. He has IR on lockdown every year. Rim shot. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. It is official. Robert Saleh, officially the next Titans head coach. He will be introduced to the media next Wednesday afternoon. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, the one thing we do know about Robert Saleh, he can coach one hell of a defense. So how should we set our expectation for Saleh's defenses here in Tennessee? We'll talk about that next. 615-737-1025. 94.9 The Fan is your home for Vanderbilt women's basketball. Tonight, the Commodores take on Auburn at Memorial Gym at 6:30 p.m. and pregame begins at 6:15.
It was after the game we played San Fran. We went up, mutual respect, telling me I'm a hell of a player. At the end, I kind of rubbed it out like, you're going to be in Tennessee next year, right? And it's crazy that it's actually happened,
Yes.
for me to say that after the game, because like I said, I respect the way he had these guys
Yes.
playing. I mean, you turn on not even just against us, but when you're watching Sunday night games and Thursday night game, every time they make a big play, like to see his energy on the sideline, that's contagious. And to have that from a head coach now, like that's going to be even more contagious, just to see that as a defensive lineman, like I want to celebrate. I want to celebrate with my coach. I want to see that fireness on the sideline. That's what's exciting me. So, I'm excited. I'm excited. Like I said, when I saw him after that game and I told him you're gonna be in Tennessee next year, I don't think I was just messing with him. I really wanted him to be my coach. And now it's actually happening.
That was Jeffrey Simmons on Jordan Schultz's podcast talking about how at the end of the game between the Titans and 49ers near the end of the regular season, Simmons said to Saleh, so you're going to be in Tennessee next year? And lo and behold, Robert Saleh, now officially the Titans' next head coach. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you inside Bridgestone Arena. And there are a lot of questions about Robert Saleh and how it's going to work here. First and foremost, who is going to be his offensive coordinator? And we will discuss that because there was a report today with some interesting names tied to the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator position. But the one thing we do know about Robert Saleh is he can coach one hell of a defense. Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, who joined us on the show yesterday, had in his story about Robert Saleh and what he can learn from his time in New York as he comes to Tennessee. He said this about Saleh's defense, quote, in 2022 and 2023 combined, per True Media, the Jets ranked first in defensive EPA, first in success rate, first in pass defense, second in yardage, seventh in scoring, third in pressure rate, fifth in sack rate, and only allowed plays of 10-plus yards 16.6% of the time, the lowest rate in the NFL. There are a lot of fancy words in there, but basically, he can coach a good defense. And the question that I want us to discuss, guys, is how should we set our expectations for Robert Saleh's defense here in Tennessee? Because as we laid out before the break, there are a ton of holes on this defense. And there were players who played for Robert Saleh in New York who are not on this defense. There's no Sauce Gardner on this defense. There's no DJ Reed on this defense. They've got Jeffrey Simmons, and then there are some question marks. So, Derek, as we usher in the Robert Saleh era, how should we set our expectations for his defenses here?
First, I think if you're just talking about the philosophy of his defense, then I think we need to set it high because he's shown, whether it be in San Fran or when he took the head coaching job in New York with the Jets, that his defense will play. They will show up. Now he had some injuries in New York too that kind of, did him in a bit. But if you're just talking about schematics, then we need to hold him to a high standard that whatever scheme he brings in here, it's going to be a damn good one, at least, from his prior history. Now, when you're talking about the personnel, that's a different story. Because we just talked about Denard Wilson and how inept that defense was. Well, he's inheriting the same defense, maybe with new players once, free agency come around in the draft. But essentially, your core guys, they are the guys that you are going to be coaching this upcoming year. And a lot of them are, young players. So I think we have to taper the expectation when it comes to, unless they can go out and get good veteran players in free agency. And I'm not talking about the name. I'm just talking about guys that fit his system. If he can go out and get veteran guys that have been steady other places, consistent, and still have years left and fit them in his defense, then that may turn the tides a little bit. But as we sit right now, if I didn't believe in this scheme, I would say, let's not think anything of this defense because outside of Jeff And I'm not counting Sweat because he spent much of last year injured. And then, you can look
And
at
how
Cedric.
does he fit in that system?
Exactly. How does he fit in the system? Cedric Gray is a player, I believe. But all these guys are young, with the exception of with Jeffrey Simmons. So, but if he didn't have those guys, it'd be, I don't know how he could get this defense even halfway decent. But because of his scheme, because he had Jeffrey, because he had some other pieces, realistically, this defense should be better. But I'm not ready to write it off as, for sure, this is going to be a top 12 defense. Nah, it may take a few years for that to happen.
This is what I would look for on that question, Adam, is what I've seen over the years. A guy comes in, he's a defensive guy, but you've got the young quarterback that you're going to have a tendency to want to load up. You want to help the quarterback. So, for example, that first pick that they have at number 4, is that going to be an offensive player or a defensive player? A lot of times it's like, because remember like Peyton Manning's days in the Colts, they would load up the offense. They need a defense. Oh, let's pick Dallas Clark as our first pick. Oh, you already have Marvin Harrison. Let's pick Reggie Wayne. And that worked really well for the Colts because their offense was a machine, and then they just tried to figure it out on defense. And so I see that sometimes when you have a defensive coach, like, oh, we got Robert Saleh. He'll take care of all our problems on defense. They used to do that with Mike Munchak on the offensive line. They never gave him the high first-round pick. They're like, we got Mike Munchak. He'll figure it out. We got a 5th-round pick over here, Big Country Stewart. He'll make it work. Or Michael Roos, non-first-round picks. So I think what Saleh might do is exactly what you said, Derek. He'll look around and try to find some of his old guys that he's had that might be out there. Because
he still can play a little.
Can play a little bit, maybe not like before, but they'll have a great understanding of what he wants to do. Look at Mike Vrabel in New England right now. Who's on his defense?
Harold Landry,
Robert Spillane, who made like 20 tackles every preseason game that he loved, but they didn't keep him.
Jack Gibbons.
Right. Yeah. He's got those guys. Because he knows what he's got with those role players. And that does make a difference. I remember Bill Belichick or Bill Parcells, when he left the Giants, retired, he came back with the Patriots. Who was on his defense? Pepper Johnson and several of the former Giants. They were 100 years old, right? But they still knew how to plug some gaps and play. So that I do think that is a tactic that Saleh could use.
Derek, one thing that encourages me about Saleh when it comes to the state of the Titans defense right now is he took an incredibly banged up defense this season in San Francisco and squeezed a lot out of it. They finished 13th in the NFL, the 49ers did, in scoring defense, despite missing Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Mykel Williams, their first-round pick in last year's draft. The 3 of them combined to miss 33 games, and they still finished in the top half of the NFL in scoring defense. So, one, you hope that the Titans don't miss the equivalent players for that many games as the Niners did this season. But the fact that Saleh was able to take a unit missing its key players and still have it finish in the top half of the NFL in scoring defense, that's encouraging to me as he tries to figure out what to do here.
Yeah, it is. It's but they've done a good job, I think, at least from a defensive side, of going out and getting players or drafting players. San Francisco, and they're going through their own problems legally, potentially, anyway, with their rash of injuries. But I think this has happened to Saleh before, where he's had to have guys go down when he was with San Fran and he had other guys step up. That's coaching. That's all that is. It's coaching. Now, you have your frontline guys, and then you're coaching them, and then you're coaching those guys that are in the back, and hopefully that when they do get their opportunity, they may do, and that's what they have done in San Francisco. There's a template. There's a foundation to what he wants to do. There's accountability to each player on defense, as far as doing what you're supposed to do and knowing what to do at what time and what time to do it. They had a buy-in. You saw it in New York, and you've seen it in San Francisco. So coming here, the problem is that the talent is young right now. And again, if he can't identify, veteran guys that still, has some play in them, that knows his defense, is going to be hard for this young defense to really come on, because it's a lot of players that are going to be dealing with, rehab all summer. That is going to miss some of the on the field stuff. So you got to wait all of this stuff in before you even get on the field, so he can start teaching these guys outside of the classroom.
Well, how many of the players from Denard Wilson's defense are a fit for Saleh's system? I would guarantee you, without knowing exactly who, that because it is different, right? It's not the same. It's not the same philosophy. So there's going to be 3 or 4 guys that were probably playing to their strengths with Wilson. Remember, it took a year for Wilson to get some of his guys, right? Remember, they changed the edge guys. They didn't want Landry. They wanted some bigger guys to set the edge. And now you get that. Now you got to scrap that because you have another defensive guy coming in. So that's what makes it tough. So I'm definitely tempering my expectations on what the Titans defense will look like. He's not going to be a guy that can just be super magic. He's got to have some help.
Here's something interesting from Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic talking about Saleh's defense. Quote, as for the defensive style, Saleh's defenses rarely blitz and instead rely on a 4-man pass rush to create pressure, allowing more creativity in the middle of the field and on the back end. In that regard, it helps that Saleh is inheriting all-pro defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons. Saleh also typically keeps his outside cornerbacks on one side of the field. Sauce Gardner, an all-pro, rarely traveled with star receivers when Saleh was in New York.
So that tells you right there how different, in a nutshell, the defense is, because Denard Wilson was about pressure. It was about bringing the pressure from different places, deception.
Well, I think he had to after he had to.
Well, that's another thing. So if your philosophy is we're just going to get pressure with the front 4, that sounds great. But who are your front 4?
Yeah.
You don't have Deacon Jones and Mean Joe Green and those guys, Too Tall Jones, right? You've got Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat, who is not really a pass rusher by design, right? He's made. So
Femi, that's a project.
Femi, is he a defensive end in this scheme?
Yeah, is he? You got to bulk him up if he's a defensive end, but do you want to do that?
I don't know. That's a question for Robert Saleh as he comes in. How do you use these guys?
Saleh did have a lot of success developing young defensive players. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Michael Carter, Quincy Williams, right? Now, those players are high-caliber players. But, again, that's at least somewhat encouraging.
Yeah, well, Sauce Gardner, right, is a super talent. So that whole thing about, hey, let's take Sauce Gardner and put him on that one side, the Titans don't have that.
No.
So they could use the 4th pick to get somebody like that, a corner or a good edge rusher. We feel like there's good edge rushers that will be there at 4, right? If they want to try to solve one of those problems. But the point is, filling all those holes in one off season, that's a tall order.
That's why it's going to be critical for them to identify their free agents and finding guys that are a fit. And some of those guys may be former Jets or former 49ers, at least at the beginning. And then as those younger guys start to mature and develop and grow into your system, then you don't have to look for those older veteran guys that have played in your system. These young guys have had enough years in the system, then they should know what to do. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he gets out of Femi. And how they use Femi and what he gets out of T Sweat, because if he wants to, and they have the ability to just rush 4 and get to the quarterback because of Sweat and him pushing the pocket, and Jeffrey, his ability to line up across the defensive line. So they do have the ability. It's just, which Sweat are we going to get? Are we going to get a more developed Sweat that we thought we were going to get this year, but we didn't get it? Some of it was because of injury, but then sometimes it just looked like he just took a step back, period. So hopefully we can get, a much better third year Devondre Sweat than we got in the second year. So if those two guys are able to be a good combination in the middle, I think he will get what he wants in regards to the defense and getting pressure on the quarterback with just those 4 rushers.
615-737-1025. How should we set our expectations for Robert Saleh's defense in Tennessee? 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your reaction on that. Plus, a report today naming potential offensive coordinators for the Tennessee Titans. We'll bring you that list. We'll break it down coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Time to tell you about Loan Pronto. Low mortgage rates are back. Loan Pronto has fixed rate mortgages with APRs as low as 4.89%. That's the lowest in years. So if you're stuck in a 6% or more loan, you could drop your payment big time with a refinance. It is a move you should look into. So call and see what option works best for you. Just call 615-499-5780 or visit loanpronto.com for a free instant home appraisal and find out what your situation is. No hard credit pull is necessary. Or you can also do this. Keep your first mortgage in place if that's a good rate, and get cash out of your home's equity with Loan Pronto's rapid equity loan if you have some other issues financially, like a hefty credit card bill or a car loan. You can cut your monthly expenses by doing this by using Loan Pronto's rapid equity loan program. 615-499-5780 or visit loanpronto.com. Either or, they can help you in 2026. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, APR for well-qualified buyers, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
I'm glad to see him get another shot because I do think he is a head coach at the end of the day. And I think he's somebody that can lead this Tennessee defense, who we've talked a lot during the year, has got more talent than people realize. It's a better defense than where it was ranked for the year. It just was horrible offensive play that led the defense to really falling apart at times. Right? If their offense, I'm going to say this out loud, if their offense just was respectable, I feel like the Tennessee Titan defense would have been a top half of the league type of defense last year. But they weren't afforded that luxury. And you see what Saleh did this year with not great talent in San Francisco and still making it work and being one of the better defenses in the game.
That was Chris Sims on the hiring of Robert Saleh. Do you agree with his assessment about the Titans defense?
Who's he talking about? Who's he talking about? More talent than you might think. Who are the guys that we're not thinking of?
I don't understand what he's.
Does he think nobody knows who Jeffrey Simmons is?
Yeah.
Is he only talking about him? I would like to hear more of his explanation there. He clearly knows his stuff. I like Chris Sims. He spent a lot of time in Nashville, but I do not agree with that assessment of the defense. Do you?
No, I mean, as far as more talent, unless he's looking at these young guys and thinking that the things that he's seen, they should be okay. I'm not sure. Winston and Harris, I think they're going to be good players, at least solid players.
Yeah.
But are you talking about game-changing players? I don't know. They don't have a cornerback, in this situation. So they got Cedric Gray, to me, is always that forgotten person. I think Cedric Gray is a hell of a player. I think he is a hell of a player, and he's going to excel hopefully in this defense that Robert Saleh's put together. But beside Simmons, Gray, and you want to throw Sweat on there, everybody else is trying to prove themselves. Everybody else, they're young. So I don't necessarily, again, he may be just thinking glass half full in a sense, but I look at it as they got some solid players, but they need some dudes outside of Jeffrey. They need Sweat to turn into a dude. They need Cedric Gray to continue to develop. They need those young safeties to come in and develop into dudes. Right now, they only have one true dude. So maybe he's just looking at it from the standpoint of, again, they got young guys, but mixing with mixing with Saleh, they should be even better. That's the same thing we thought about Callahan, the father. And look what happened with that.
Well, Bill Callahan did get another job.
He got another job, but what we thought was going to happen, it was like, if Bill Callahan we trust, and that offensive line didn't seem to get its act together.
I thought it got better after he left, to be honest with you. One texter on our text line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com, says, Saleh used a four-man pressure all season, even after Bosa and Williams went down. They generated the worst pass rush numbers in the league and the fewest sacks this season by a wide margin. So to come in 13th in scoring defense after all that, I'd say he knows what he's doing. On the other hand, one texter says, the defense needs to rival the Texans or we got bamboozled. Well, then you are preparing yourself for disappointment because that Texans defense is very, very good. And the Titans do not have the players on their defense that the Texans do. So that's an incredibly high bar from that texter. So good luck meeting those expectations. But the biggest question now that the Titans have hired a head coach is who's going to be the offensive coordinator. We saw yesterday a report from Diana Russini of The Athletic that Brian Daboll, who interviewed for the Bills head coaching job today, if Brian Daboll doesn't get the head coaching job in Buffalo, that he's coming here to be the offensive coordinator. That's the expectation. That via Diana Russini of The Athletic. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network reported earlier today, quote, the Titans continue to work through offensive coordinator options with Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, Adam Stenavich, and Bobby Slowick among the potential options per sources. All have OC experience as Robert Saleh looks for the right man to work with quarterback Cam Ward. So 5 names: Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, Adam Stenavich, and Bobby Slowick.
I don't know about Stenavich.
I don't know anything about Stenavich.
But just thinking of 2 names, Kingsbury and Arthur Smith. those are two vastly different
Yeah.
mindsets of how to run an offense. So that would be my question.
Adam Stenavich, by the way, is the offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers
Okay.
Now.
at the moment.
Okay.
So what fits Cam's style? If you could pick one of those guys, that's what I can't answer. And even Daboll, who did such a great job with Josh Allen, Daboll, I think he set himself up pretty good publicly. It's like, all right, Bills, either you're going to hire me or I'm off the board. You can't waffle around. If I'm your man, offer me the job and I'll take it. I mean, he's from Buffalo. That's got to be his dream job on some level, right? And to get to coach Josh Allen, he's not going to turn that job down. But at the same time, the Bills have to say he's the guy we want, or they risk losing him to the Titans.
My question about Kingsbury, and he's been around as a head coach. It hasn't really worked out well for him, both in college and in the NFL. He may be, Derek, like you talk about Mike McDaniel, a career offensive coordinator at this point. But I think of the quarterbacks that Cliff Kingsbury has played a role in developing over the years. Patrick Mahomes, Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams. Those are some interesting names. Have maybe similar playing styles to Cam Ward. That's intriguing. I don't know about his scheme and whether that would fit with Cam Ward, but the quarterbacks that Cliff Kingsbury has worked with and played a role in developing have similar traits to Cam Ward, right?
Yes, they do, but Cam is not a runner like any one of those guys. I'm looking at that type of offense and how he ran it. I don't want my quarterback running that much. I just don't.
Well, how would you describe, for people who don't know, how would you describe Cliff Kingsbury's offense?
It's hard. I mean, it's quarterback centric. RPOs, you know,
a little college flavor.
Yes,
they want to simpler.
They want to
easy for a young quarterback to pick up quickly.
They want to put you in multiple sets. They want to spread things out. It's heavy quarterback. Everything revolves around the quarterback. It's not, we're going to give it to the back and let our offense flow. No, it doesn't. Even though they do use the running back, but from what I've seen, he relies on this quarterback to be a big part of the offense that's running the football. Or maybe he just did that because he had guys that really could run the ball in Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels or Baker Mayfield. Even Baker Mayfield is more mobile.
Yes.
Than Cam Ward.
No question. That would be my number one question.
Or even
with Kingsbury.
You go to Mahomes in college. He was more mobile than Cam Ward.
He is more mobile than Cam Ward.
He's just
today.
So do you want that type of offense where your quarterback is going to be a big part of your offense, not just throwing the football, which he should be, but also running it?
He's going to get hit more. Too.
Yeah, I don't want that part. I don't want my, because eventually it wears you down. Look at Lamar Jackson.
And look at Jaden Daniels this season.
And I know
Kyler
Lamar
Murray.
wasn't in that offense, but when you run your quarterback that much and he becomes that pivotal in what you're doing from a run aspect, you're gonna open him up to injuries, and the Titans can't afford that with a young quarterback.
So it sounds like both of you are skeptical about Cliff Kingsbury as a fan.
Yeah, basic because
I don't think
Jaden Daniels got hurt. I mean, but he could have got hurt in any system, but that system that he runs, it seems like, you put the quarterback at risk.
Meanwhile, Arthur Smith, another name on that list. Titans fans know a thing or two about the offense that Arthur Smith likes to run. Multiple tight ends, a lot of play action. Do you think, Willie, that's a better fit for Cam Ward?
I think it's a better fit, yes, because of and I'm going by a lot of what people like Trevor Maddich were saying, Teron Davenport, that it really did seem like once they committed to the run, the offensive line started playing better. They ran the ball better, and Cam Ward's numbers grew some. So, and I think with the personnel, I don't know what they're going to do with Chig. I could see a two tight end with Chig and Gunnar Helm that Arthur Smith could do some things with, right? And then hopefully You could find a way to add a receiver somewhere in here that would upgrade the unit. Find a back. It's usually not as hard to find a running back that could be good if they want to replace Tony Pollard or even couple somebody with Tony Pollard. And I think you could have some potential for growth. I think it's better for Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is a better fit for an Arthur Smith system.
615-737-1025. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network reports that the Titans continue to work through offensive coordinator options with Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, Adam Stenavich, and Bobby Slowick among the potential options per sources. Your thoughts on that list? Who on that list do you think would best mesh with Cam Ward? 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction coming up next. We are live at Bridgestone Arena. David James is back at the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Hey everyone, this is Derek Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a goal or some type of resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But I got some good news because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and excuse me, and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tender nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live at Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators will host the Ottawa Senators tonight at 7 o'clock. Pregame at 6 with Max Hers, right here on 102.5 The Game. A special occasion here tonight. Roman Josi will play game number 1,000 in the NHL, and we will discuss Roman Josi in just a matter of moments, but we will follow up with our conversation. A report from Tom Pelissero earlier today about the Titans' offensive coordinator options. He named Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, Adam Stenavich, and Bobby Slowick among the potential options that Robert Saleh is considering for that position. Your reaction, 615-737-1025. Keegan says, if you look at Brian Daboll's quarterback history back to his college days, his time in New York with Daniel Jones really is the outlier of his career. But Brian Daboll did get Daniel Jones a big-ass contract.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank Saquon Barkley for that, too.
That as well.
But they won a road playoff game with Daniel Jones playing quarterback.
Yes.
So he had at least one good season. I'm trying to remember exactly when Daboll came there, but I do think he got some good mileage out of Daniel Jones.
Do you think
it went completely south, of course,
yes,
at one point, but
do you think Brian Daboll, like, I don't know who else the Bills are hiring, but I'm wondering how legitimate you think his candidacy is for that job. Do you think that Brian Daboll could replace Sean McDermott in Buffalo?
Well, this is his second interview, isn't it?
I think he's getting that job. I think he's getting it. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of our show he's the guy.
Okay.
Who else could they get, really?
This is his second interview with them, right? He went back for a follow-up, if I'm not
It was
mistaken.
an in-person interview today, I believe, but I don't know if it was his first or second interview.
Okay. But beside him, what other, there's
Joe Brady, who's on the staff, who's never been a head coach.
They interviewed Joe Brady for the position.
They've interviewed
and Daboll. That might be it.
But Daboll is from there, right? He's been there. He grew up in Buffalo.
An OC there.
He would seem to be the guy. And I still think there'll be a cross section of the Bills fans going, wait a minute, why did we fire Sean McDermott again? Like I don't
sure
know.
There will be. Didn't they interview the Chargers' old coach? What was his name? Gosh.
Mike McCoy?
No, not McCoy. Mike McCoy. Before Mike McCoy. Because I thought Weaver was on the list too.
Marty Schottenheimer?
That they had no, not that.
Don Coryell? Now we're going way back.
Anthony Lynn.
Anthony Lynn. Yeah, I thought they interviewed
Anthony Lynn. Yes.
And Weaver.
I think Anthony Weaver, I don't know if they've actually interviewed him yet or if they've just put in a request. I think the only two interviews they've actually completed are Joe Brady and Brian Daboll so far.
Okay.
I think that's the case. So neither of you believe that Brian Daboll will be available to the Titans to be their offensive coordinator.
I'd be surprised. But like I said in the last hour, Daboll's got the Bills in a good position because he's basically going to say, look, I'm here for the taking. Do you want me? If not, it's been put out there basically that the fallback is he'll just go right down to Tennessee and take the OC position.
I think his biggest or loudest cheerleader is going to have to be Josh Allen.
Yes,
indeed, because Josh was there when Daboll was there, and he had two of his best seasons.
I mean, Daboll is credited with spearheading his development.
So
that's how he got a head coaching job in the first place.
Bringing in Daboll as a head, he may not leave out of the building.
Okay.
If you're just looking at it from that standpoint, like it's not like he was in Buffalo and their offense was and he was barely hanging on. So, he got a job somewhere else or end up getting a head coaching job. This was a high-powered offense that he helped build. And why wouldn't you hire a guy unless you just feel he's not the leader that you want? But why wouldn't you want a guy that helped your quarterback to be the quarterback he is now? I'm pretty sure if they do have a relationship, meaning Josh Allen and Daboll, that Josh Allen has to be a big factor in all this.
If a lot of our texters are throwing their support behind Arthur Smith, Jonathan says, do we know if Arthur Smith is being considered in Pittsburgh for head coach? I don't think so, but I don't know that to be sure. Caleb says, I think the Bills are holding out for Davis Webb. Dayball needs to smell the roses and come on down to Nashville. One texter, Skyler, says, Cam Ward fits Arthur Smith's offense, under center, run the ball, and play action. So a lot of support behind Arthur Smith on the text line. Bobby Slowick is an interesting name because he felt like the scapegoat for some of the Texans' issues, but he was there for C.J. Stroud's Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign, if I'm not mistaken. He's now working as a passing game coordinator with the Dolphins, I believe. But I'm wondering if people around the league, Willie, are thinking, look at what happened to C.J. Stroud in the playoffs. Maybe it wasn't Bobby Slowick's fault. Maybe we need to reconsider Bobby Slowick as a potential offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and these are questions that I'm not qualified to answer. So I agree with that assessment that the best year that Stroud has had was his rookie year, that he has slipped a little bit since then. There are other factors that go with it. But what would Slowick look like in a completely different place with a different kind of quarterback? So I keep coming back to the same question, and that is, who fits Cam Ward the best?
Mm-hmm.
What is Robert Saleh's vision? What is Mike Borgonzi's vision? What is Mike Borgonzi telling Robert Saleh in the initial meetings? Well, here is what Cam does well. Here's what worked well for Cam last year. What are your thoughts? Which one of these guys fits the bill? Because as we've just mentioned, all these guys floating around here, some of them are very, very different with A, how they've done it before, and B, how Cam Ward looked last year. So it's good. It's going to be different for Cam no matter what, but I don't think it should be a radical shift with whoever they bring in there.
Do you think that he looks at what Shanahan is doing in San Fran, seeming he's been there for a while, whether it had been the first stint there or now, altogether he's been there for some years underneath that, in that system with him? Do you think he look at a system like that? Do you think what Brock Purdy does, that concept, do you think that's something that Cam Ward can do?
Yes, I do think.
So
now here's the thing about Purdy. He's an underrated runner of the ball.
Yeah.
He can move. I think he can move better than Cam. But I do think the Shanahan offense, like that's such a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And the Shanahan offense, and maybe you can help explain it. The Shanahan and the McVee, somewhat similar. The West Coast, McVay,
yeah.
McVee. I'm talking to Fleetwood Mac, Christine McVie. What am I talking about? I don't know.
McVay. Tomato.
But would you say they're all
they're all similar.
Back to Andy Reid and
they're all similar.
And then Bill Walsh,
and they're all similar. I'm sure they niched out whatever thing within the offense that is closely attributed to that particular coach, meaning Shanahan now, he probably threw some wrinkles in there, that maybe these other coaches don't have. But I see an offense like that. But again, the offense, you got to have that driver outside of the quarterback. The driver for San Fran was McCaffrey. If you get a back like McCaffrey,
good luck.
Then if there's a back out there like McCaffrey, I told y'all, and they need to draft him, but we ain't gonna go there just yet. But I can see Cam Ward flourishing in an offense like that.
One texter says, Vince says, Arthur Smith sucks, was terrible play caller in Pittsburgh.
Well, he was good when DK Metcalf was out there.
Well, wouldn't you say this about Arthur Smith? Since he's left, those really good offenses that he had cooking here, he's never reached the heights offensively again. He became a head coach, right? And it was a mixed bag, ultimately not good enough in Atlanta. I don't know that he ever had the horses there. Would we agree? I don't think he ever had
he had Bijan Robinson.
Team. He did in the last year, and you're right. Like that's the thing that I think has people wondering.
Because he did from the standpoint of it was young talent, But he had Bijan, he had
Pitts.
tight end Pitts,
Drake
he
London.
had Drake London.
Did he have London though?
Yeah.
London
Drake was there. Yeah, Drake was there with him. And he couldn't make it work for whatever reason because he's only been in Pittsburgh, what, a year or two?
2
years.
I
So, yeah, he had all those guys.
He definitely had Pitts.
Pitts was there.
He did. He had
London was
Mariota.
there.
He had London. He had Drake
London was there.
He had
and-
Mariota quarterbacking for a while.
And Desmond Ritter.
Desmond Ritter.
And Taylor Heineke.
Taylor Heineke.
No disrespect to the Old Dominion monarch, Taylor Heineke, but yikes.
But what Minnie was saying as far as that, you had the talent. Now, the quarterback situation was,
That was a problem.
I get it. But when you have Bijan Robinson in the backfield, that should help you call plays because of the dynamic running back that he is. And they were not able to do that consistently.
Matthew in Nashville, who must be a Steelers fan, says, please take Arthur from us. He was terrible in Pittsburgh. He forgot that Bijan Robinson existed on the team, guys. That's a big problem. I don't think he literally forgot, but I know that there were questions about Robinson's usage under Arthur
But
Smith.
aren't there still is
Yeah.
there's still those same questions about Robinson's
Well,
usage, right?
They fired the head coach, so I guess it was a problem.
Yeah.
Somebody had a problem with something.
One texter says, I am genuinely confused on why everyone is so hesitant to believe that we could honestly turn this team around in one offseason. The Texans did it a couple of years ago. Commanders did it last year. Seahawks, Patriots, and Bears did it this year. We have some young, talented guys already on the team. If we get good coordinators in here and get some good players in free agency in the draft, I can see the Titans winning the AFC South.
I
What
don't
was
see
that?
it.
They go back to Houston. What was that? Was what, 2 years ago? 2023.
Right. They had been bad for a while.
The Texans went from 3-13-1 in 2022 to 10-7 in 2023 and 2024,
Right.
12-5 this season.
So they had though, they had been bad for a while because Deshaun Watson had disintegrated. He was there in person only. Remember, he was showing up to get paid, but he had the weird suspension that was not a suspension. Then they traded him to the Browns and got the windfall of picks. So they had already tried to work themselves out of the doldrums, right? They were bad for 3 years. Then suddenly you get loaded up with draft capital. You get Stroud. They traded up to get Will Anderson.
Yeah.
And so I would say
Listen.
that helped them. There's unique circumstances when a team turns around. Drake May and a weak schedule was a big reason for the turnaround here. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I can't foresee a jump like that for the Titans this coming year. I'm not going to throw that out there. Now, can they win 6, 7, maybe even 8 games? Yeah, I think that's possible, but not a double-digit division winning kind of thing.
Right. It's easy to look at what happened in New England this season and Chicago and Jacksonville and say, hey, those teams did it. We can do it too. But it's much easier said than done there.
Listen, he came in and they loaded up. And this is what people got to understand when we look at the Houston Texans. And we said, well, if Houston did it, the Titans did it. Well, first you got to draft well. You have to. They went in and they drafted the linebacker out of, was it UCLA, Tua Atoa? I forget. I can't pronounce his name, but Henry Tua Tatoa. That's their linebacker. They had Will Anderson. They had Derek Stingley Jr. They had players on this defense. And then what they did was hire a really good defensive coach as their head coach. And it allowed for that defense to carry the offense. The offense didn't go out there and feel they had to win every game, even though they had C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins. They had some other guys on that team that were pretty good. That was the team because of the drafting and because of the free agents that he brought in when he became head coach. That team was ready to win. Only thing they needed to do was not put it all on the quarterback, and they didn't. That defense was a shutdown defense. They made it to the second round of the playoffs that year, his first year. So if you're going to make a jump like the Houston Texans, you're right. It can happen, but you got to have players.
One texter, Josh, says, as a Steelers and Titans fans myself, I do not want Arthur Smith back. I take any one of you over Arthur Smith part 2. I don't think you want me calling plays at any level.
Calling plays. I'm going to throw the ball every time.
Not even on Madden. when I played Madden when I was younger, I would always go, what does John Madden suggest here? Like, I'm not picking my own plays. What does the actual virtual coach suggest that I do? So that's how I would run it. I'd be like Woody Johnson's kids or something like that.
I think looking back on Arthur Smith's time running the offense here, where we saw him every day, you have to tip your cap. Right?
Yeah.
You can't.
He
you
did
can't
a great
forget that.
job here. Granted, he had Derrick Henry.
Sure,
That helps.
but he
A.J. Brown.
was smart enough, I think,
Exactly.
how to use him properly, and their passing numbers to balance Derrick Henry
was good.
really good.
Yeah. So he's able to balance out. Look, I have no problem with Arthur Smith, as the coordinator, because I think, his style of offense works for a young quarterback, developing that young quarterback. And then after that, you just hope that it continues to work. But at least to start off with a young quarterback like Cam, you have to have a run game in the Arthur Smith offense. You just have to. So unless they're going to go out and get them a dynamic runner, I think Pollard is a good runner, but they can use an upgrade at that position. Unless they want to upgrade that position, I mean, you bring in Arthur Smith, and he can't truly run the offense that he wants to run because he doesn't have the back.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the potential options at OC for the Titans. Robert Saleh has finally, been hired as the Titans head coach. His introductory news conference will be held next Wednesday at 2 p.m. So we'll hear from Robert Saleh in roughly 6 days. Well, not roughly, exactly 6 days. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, I do want to talk about a story in college football that could have some major ramifications on NIL, and it involves an institution that is near and dear to my heart. We will do that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025. The Game. D-Mays, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Some breaking NFL news. The Baltimore Ravens are hiring Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter as their next head coach and signing him to a 5-year contract, according to Adam Schefter. So another job off the board. The Ravens hiring Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter to replace John Harbaugh. On the Titans offensive coordinator front, Scott in Shelbyville says, what we want for the Titans OC is name brand. We do not want, I was the quarterback coach last year, and this is my first year being a coordinator. We want Jif peanut butter. We do not want Dollar Tree or Save-A-Lot peanut butter.
Hey, Jif is better than Save-A-Lot peanut butter.
Don't disrespect Save-A-Lot peanut butter. Let's go to CJ on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. CJ, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I think Robert Saleh is definitely a good option at the head coach, moving in the right direction. I just want to kind of keep some expectation and realistic expectations kind of here, and with the division kind of getting a lot better now with the Jacksonville Jaguars looking pretty good. And we can't forget but the Colts being pretty good this past year as well, that even though we can make some good moves in the draft, there's still going to be an uphill climb with the division getting a lot better than it has been the last couple of years.
Thank you for the call, CJ.
No, he's right. I mean, this division, and that's why, this hire and subsequently the hire of the OC is going to be critical. Just the coaching staff, period. Because if you're looking around the AFC South, that's the first sort of domino you got to knock down. If you're looking at the AFC South, it seems like everybody is in play with their head coach, quarterback. The only team that's still sort of this is the Indianapolis Colts because of Daniel Jones and his injury. But if Daniel Jones finished out the season, they made the playoffs, I'm pretty sure they would have signed him to a longer-term deal. So it seems like every team is like 2 or 3 steps ahead of the Titans right now. And that's just on the surface. So he's right that this is critical for them.
I think, at this point, you can't really worry about the rest of the division. You don't have any control over that. I think when you're fine-tuning your team and you're saying, who do we have to beat, then maybe you can make some moves accordingly. But right now, it's just the next thing. It's not. You can't worry about the other teams. You got to worry about your team.
I want to take a quick Titans break to talk about a story in college football that could have, I think, major ramifications on NIL, and it involves, as I said, an institution near and dear to my heart. Duke is suing its quarterback, Darian Mensah, to prevent him from transferring. And I will try to remember all of the facts as I understand them. So Duke signed Mensah to a 2-year NIL deal worth reportedly $4 million per year. At the 11th hour, he decided he was going to transfer from Duke. The expectation is that he is going to Miami or wants to go to Miami to replace Carson Beck. Mm-hmm. So Duke sued Mensah to keep him in Durham. A judge recently, what's the word I'm looking for here? They made an injunction that would he can enter the transfer portal. Mensah is permitted to enter the transfer portal, but he can't enroll at another school or play football for another college team before a judge rules on Duke's request for an injunction that would prevent him from leaving, and that's supposed to happen in early February. But this is really interesting to me, guys, because as Duke puts it, the NIL agreement with Mensah, which runs through the end of the year, gives the school exclusive rights to the players' personality rights in the context of higher education and football. Thus, the university contends Mensah transferring to play for another school would be an act of contractual breach, one that Duke says would cause irreparable harm. So it leads to the question, Willie and Derek, and I think this lawsuit could answer it. Are players employees, or can they be free agents? And can these NIL deals lock in players like pro contracts do?
It's a shame that's getting to this because if I'm a parent and I am a coach, if you make a 2-year agreement for that much money, then that should be the end of it right there. If he agreed, I'll play for you for 2 years for this money, that should be end of discussion. So basically, I mean, what message does that send the whole society? What does it say about you as a person that you would go back on your word like that? And Derek's going to bring up an example of maybe coaches have done that to players. That's just as wrong. But if we're in the wild, wild west, you have to start with what's right and what's wrong. To me, if you're the starting quarterback, if you're a starter on a team, I don't understand, and the team's done well, and the coach is still there, why are you looking around? Why? You just want a little bit more money? That is dumb. That's not good. But this is the world, right? This is the world we lived in. I don't understand it, but I would draw the line on, like Duke has. I think Duke has done the right thing here. That pains me to say, by the way. I'm not a big Duke fan.
It's just like coaches.
Clip that, David.
This is the ugly part about it. You know, they didn't want to put guardrails and bylaws and everything else in. Their arrogance thought that, it'll go away, and it didn't. And this is now the playground they got to play in. And it's a dirty, messy playground. So don't try to sit over there and you're all white and stay clean, because you ain't getting clean. This is a playground where everybody, once you enter, you get dirty. You're not walking out of this clean. You came in clean, not walking out clean. Like coaches, yeah, you're right, Willie. He did sign a contract, supposedly, or whatever, 2 year, 1 year, whatever. And under any other scenario, under whatever, you would expect an individual to honor that contract. But we know in the world of sports that just doesn't happen. Even in a sport where contracts are guaranteed, it doesn't happen. So how do you expect?
What do you mean it doesn't happen in the sports where it's guaranteed?
But if I don't want you, I'm going to send you somewhere else, even if you don't want to go.
I'll send you, but you get paid.
No, but somebody else got to deal with the payment now, not me.
But you'll get the payment.
But it's still, if you want to honor your contract, keep the player. I don't care if he's playing bad or whatnot. You keep him on your team because you gave him the contract. Honor it if that's the case. This is a situation where now they don't like the rules of the game anymore, even though there's no rules. They just don't like the rules of the game. You saw it across the board. Go ahead and sue them if you want to. You're going to open and let them win. Let Duke win. You're going to open up a big can of worms you do not want. You do not want. And I know there's possibly some nefarious things going on in Duke with the judge being attached to Duke University. This is a whole bunch of stuff going on in Duke. I'm not saying they have a part on that.
Let's be clear about one thing. As you mentioned, the original judge, I actually thought this part was hilarious. Mm-hmm. The original judge on the case who actually ruled against Duke didn't want Mensa to be allowed to even enter the portal. Mm-hmm. And that judge said, no, he can enter the portal. Now he can't enroll, but he can be in the portal. That if I understand this correctly, I'm not a lawyer. That judge had to recuse himself because his wife works for the school and he's a Duke basketball season ticket holder. Which
see, it's all messy, man. It's all messy. See, once you play in this playground, you can't come out clean. I understand what you're saying, Willie. You signed a 2-year contract. You honor. If that was Mahoney, I know you would convince him somehow, some way to honor the contract. If it was me with Derek, I would convince him somehow, some way to honor the contract, especially if the situation is a good situation. If it hadn't drastically changed or no one's doing anything to him or making him feel a certain way, okay. But if it's on up, I'm telling him, honor the contract, we'll deal with it later. But in today's society and sports, at least, that's just not, unfortunately, that's not the playground that everybody is playing. They want to play in the clean playground. They had a chance to play in the clean playground, but they didn't want to. And now, anybody that walks in here is going to get dirty.
Well, there was the example of what school was it where the quarterback?
And I got a buddy of mine. I told you about my buddy. Yeah. He's suing. He may have to sue the university because they said they gave his son a contract. And they said it started on this date and it ended on this date. But they don't want to honor the second half of the contract.
See, and that is just as wrong.
Yes.
And who was the kid that was playing? Was it UNLV, the quarterback who
Yes.
said, you know what, I was promised
Mhm.
X amount of dollars.
Yes.
I've been playing some good ball here. We're winning. They're not paying me. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
He left in the middle of the season.
Yes.
I mean, that was something we never saw before, but so it's happened the other way around too. Now, I think what gets gray is who's drawing up the contract.
Mhm.
Is it the collective? Is it, Mr. Joe Moneybags, who's the side guy who's just making the deals with everybody? Is it the coach? Is it the actual university? This is where it gets murky.
Yeah, I don't think the coach has anything.
Like
to
the
do
coach
with
can't
those,
pull out a
yeah,
drawer and say,
yeah,
okay, here's
here's
our
the
deal.
money, yeah.
Here's our agreement.
They try to keep them, and I put that old quotations. They try to keep them as far away from the actual money as they possibly can.
Sportico breaks it down quite well. Quote, Duke versus Mensa, which is just a funny thing to read, could lead to more serious discussions about college athlete employment and unionization. If Mensa were an employee of Duke and signed a multi-year employment contract with the school, he would not be able to transfer. Instead, in the current environment, there is a murkier relationship between the two where he is ostensibly being paid for NIL. The school wants him to stay as a student to play football, much like an NFL team doesn't want to lose its star quarterback, except that quarterback is an employee and union member.
They are employees. Let's get this straight. These college athletes
but the lawyers are saying, well, it's not official. It doesn't mean anything.
I know.
So this was where it gets down to ethics, right? So legally, is there a case? Obviously there is. But ethically, if Derek, if you give me your word that you're going to be, you're going to pick up something for me and bring it back. Like this is how the world works, right? We have to trust each other. We have to, there's got to be an agreement that means something, and it doesn't have to be a legalized document. Well, hey, let's say you're.
Hey, if it ain't legalized,
if it ain't
a legalized document, then I'm walking away.
Right. Okay. But what if that's how our relationship worked?
Hey, Willie,
Derek, you're supposed to pick up my groceries and bring it to my house. Hey, thanks, Derek. That's really nice of you. And it doesn't happen. Derek, what happened? Well, we didn't sign an agreement. It wasn't legally binding.
Legally, I could do that, yes. But I wouldn't do that to you, Willie.
See, I know you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't do that to me. But see, we have to have something there, right?
But
Yeah.
right
In
now,
the absence of all these rules, that's what it should come down to. If you are really valuing where you are,
but
and what
right
program
now,
you're in,
Mensa is essentially worthless, which is a terrible thing to say, but this is what I mean. He can enroll.
Yeah.
He's in the portal, but he can enroll right now. He cannot play right now. And Duke still holds exclusive rights to his NIL. So any school that signs him is taking on a player who can't play and cannot generate NIL revenue. And those are the two categories that matter most for a college quarterback, right? So this will be resolved sooner rather than later, but it's a fascinating story.
It is, and the article's right, because this is what the NCAA has hid behind the whole time. They're not, they're college students. They're not, employees of the university. And people bought it, even though they knew it wasn't true. People bought it, meaning the outside world. They bought it. Yeah, they're going to school. They getting paid. But now we see that, you know what? The veil has been taken off. They ain't college students. They're not students. Not all of them, at least. They are employees. And let Duke University win. Then it's going to open up a whole can of worms. They're going to truly fight for this to not happen again. And if that's building some form of a union, and this is not the first time I said this. I said this years ago. And that's why they stopped the University of Northwestern from trying to start up a union, because once you start up a union, it's done. It's done. It's no more amateur sports. It's done. And they don't want it to get to that point, but it may get to that point now because they put a system in place that didn't have any rules or guardrails.
615-737-1025. It is a story to watch in college football because I do think it can have a cascading effect on how NIL functions in college sports. 615-737-1025. It will be a special night here inside Bridgestone Arena, and we will discuss why. Coming up next, 615-737-1025 Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. If you've been injured in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. And even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Excuse me. By calling Law Tigers, insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. But with Law Tigers, they make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they know how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired, or better yet, replaced. So go to call 1-800 Law Tigers or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Friedman and Fusen, and you can find them in Nashville at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you inside Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators will host the Senators at 7 o'clock, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. And it will be a special night because Roman Josi will suit up in game number 1,000 of his NHL career, the first player in franchise history to play 1,000 games with the Predators organization. And he will be the 84th player in NHL history to play at least 1,000 games for one franchise. And Willie, I think we saw last week, specifically in the wins against Washington, Edmonton, and Colorado, Roman Josi had 8 points in those 3 games, 3 goals, 5 assists. I think you saw in those games that even at age 35, even with a recent history of injuries, even with his POTS diagnosis in the offseason, that Roman Josi still remains one of the most dynamic, offensively gifted defensemen in the NHL, and it will be a special night here for the fans as they will honor Josi officially on Saturday, correct?
Correct.
But to play game 1,000 is still a special moment for Josi.
I know our broadcast will be recognizing that tonight. You know, in theory, something could keep him from playing. That's why they never do the ceremony the night of. It's the next game or the next home game. So there'll be a lot of celebrating on Saturday, but it's really a 2-game deal because we're going to have a lot of celebrating tonight of Josi. And I agree with you. He's played really well lately, which is really important for this particular team where they are right now in the universe. But I also find myself reflecting back on he's been here for 15 years. 15 years.
Ridiculous.
The years start running together, right? He's been the captain for the majority of his career with the Predators, which is hard to imagine, right? I remember him as this young kid for a while on where I don't want to say he got lost in the shuffle, but he had to share the spotlight with Shea Weber. And then when Shea Weber was traded for PK Subban was one heck of a player who took up a lot of energy, deservedly so, because he was a great player. Then you had Ryan Ellis and Matthias Ekholm, who were great players in their own right. So Roman Josi, for a long time, was, I wouldn't say in the shadows. Everybody knew how good he was, but it's only in the last few years where he's taken it to another level.
Been able to assert himself.
Yeah, so he's really got 2 stages of his career, and he just keeps on going.
Now, what does this? What do you compare this to? 1,000 games comparable to let's say the NFL.
I would say 1,000 games in the NHL.
Like, how big is that in the NHL?
Well, so Adam said 84 have done it for one team, and then there's I don't know what if you have the number of how many
players have played 1,000 games.
1,000.
I can find it.
It's certainly in the hundreds, multiple hundreds.
Well, so, what's the number?
But it's a feat. It's a feat that
the longevity is
the thing.
important, right? It's like a baseball player who gets to 3,000 hits. You know, you got to play for a long time to get that, or 300 wins, which it's getting more rare in these days. But just to be around that long and be as productive for as long as you can.
414 players have played 1,000 games in their NHL careers. 2 players actually are scheduled to appear in game number 1,000 tonight. Charlie Coyle in Columbus.
Wow.
Roman Josi. Alex Killorn played game 1,000 last night, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of 1,000 game celebrations in the NHL. But Josi will become, well, I guess Charlie Coyle's game might start earlier than Josi. So either 415 or 416, depending on puck drop. But that's how many players have played 1,000 games in NHL history. And of that 414, 415, 416, only 84.
So that's more of a rare.
Have played 1,000 games with one team.
Yes. Okay. That's more. That's more of the milestone than I think. Just 1,000 games in general, playing with one team. That's like a Cal Ripken playing all his years with the Orioles.
For sure.
You know,
and being as productive for as long as Cal Ripken and Roman Josi have been. That's what sets him apart. That's why I think he's Hall of Fame material. But I think, too, with all of this time that's gone by, with 15 years, I do think sometimes, and Barry Trotz said this, and I didn't thought about it until he said it. Do we take Roman Josi for granted a little bit just because he's a humble guy, he's a classy guy, he's not flamboyant, charismatic. He just goes and gets it done. But his greatness, I feel like, I don't want to say it's underappreciated, but it's certainly not this big, huge thing that takes over. Like, you got to come see Roman Josi play because he's been here so long. It's just such a steady presence.
But he's not like this bigger than life sort of. He has this bigger than life sort of persona that's in your face all the time. He's unassuming. He's just like in the background. I'm doing my job.
I would describe
doing it at a high level.
I would describe his game as subtle. Like he does a lot of incredible things.
Yeah,
but
that others don't do.
That others can't do, particularly moving the puck from end to end, breaking down defenses, his skating ability, his ability to generate offense from the blue line. It's special. It's still special. But it's subtle. Like, there aren't very many things that Roman Josi does where you're going to go like, oh my God, did you see what Roman Josi did? But if you watch it night in and night out, as Willie does, as I used to do, you gain an appreciation for just how talented he is. And Willie's right. With the number of outstanding defensemen that have come through this organization, Shea Weber, Ryan Suter, PK Subban, Matthias Ekholm, Ryan Ellis, you want to go back further, to Kimo Timonen, like sure. you can go back further. And, Predators fans have been spoiled with the number of great defensemen that have been here. But, Josi, as a human being as well, just a wonderful guy. If you ever get the opportunity to talk to him, I mean this sincerely, Willie. I was when I saw Roman Josi at Aaron's Celebration of Life, I thought that was incredibly special.
Yes,
that he made the time to come. Yes. I really did,
and I took note of that, and my family did too. That says a lot right there. That says a lot.
Yes,
and he is a guy that he's just so regular.
Yeah,
right. He's just a regular guy. You talk to him, he no ego whatsoever, and I think his teammates see that. So I think I really hope, and I know they'll happen. But if you're coming to the game tonight, just bring it strong, right? When they announce and they acknowledge the 1,000th, or if you're coming Saturday, same thing. I know the weather could be might affect your ability to get here Saturday, maybe, hopefully not. But he deserves that kind of recognition, I think.
Yeah, and Willie, you and I have talked about this in the past, that the number of offensive-minded defensemen, we'll call them, the number of offensive-minded defensemen who I would take on my team over Roman Josi, I think that list has grown over the past couple of years, but it's still a really small list. Like, I would probably take Quinn Hughes at this moment, Cale Makar at this moment. It depends on whether you're talking about potential, right? So Lane Hudson in Montreal or Matthew Schaefer in New York. But the list is really small. That even though Roman Josi, he's missed games recently, there was concern about his effectiveness with the POTS diagnosis. Those fears I don't think have been realized. It's still a really small list of, like, if I had to pick defensemen that play the game like Roman Josi, how many would you take on your team over Roman Josi? It's still a small list.
Yes, no doubt. And hopefully that will continue for a few more years.
Yes, because he's under contract for 2 more years after this one.
2 after this one.
So, yes, it will be special. And Derek, I know that you can just appreciate as a professional athlete how difficult it is to maintain your body, to avoid serious injury and be able to play for as long as Roman Josi has. He debuted in the NHL, if my memory serves, November of 2011.
Wow. I was just retired.
Yes, and I know the sports are different, but I just imagine as a professional athlete yourself, you can just appreciate what it means to have that longevity.
Yeah, it is. Not just being in the NFL a long time, because there are guys that, manage to stay in the NFL, for a long time. Usually it's, backup quarterbacks or long snappers, kickers, guys like that.
Do you happen to know who the games play leader all time in the NFL is?
games played.
Yes.
It's not Tom. It's Morton.
It's Morton Anderson.
Yes, Morton Anderson, kicker.
382.
Yes,
382 games. Adam Vinatieri second on the list at 365.
Yeah. So when you see an individual like Yossi, you marvel at it because, at least as a former player, because you know how physically demanding and mentally demanding the sport is, and injuries that would put the average person out, they expect you to play through. And sometimes you play through them, sometimes you can't. But I know the wear and tear it takes on you mentally and physically. And for him to still be effective, even with the POTS diagnosis, I mean, you just got to marvel at it that he's still able to play at a level where, he's one of the top defensemen still at his age. And he's been in NHL, 15 years, somewhere around there?
Around 15 years.
Yeah. You just marvel at it and you take your hat off, whether it be Yossi, Tom, Brady, whether it be Cal Ripken, anybody that has played, Frank Gore, who played a bunch of years, and, he had real bad injuries in regards to his knees. But you just marvel at those guys that they're able to play at a high level, even well into their latter years. So, my hat's off to Roman Yossi, because it's not something that you look at and be like, nah, not many people. Not many people are playing 1,000 games, especially not with one team.
Right. He'll be the 84th player in NHL history.
That means a lot.
To play at least 1,000 games with one franchise. He'll be one of roughly 415 to play 1,000 games overall in his NHL career tonight.
And that means, to me, and it may not to anybody else, but he played the game and he continues to play the game the right way. Whether you go to Tom Brady, Cal Ripken, hell, myself, I played 15 years at a position the size that I am that you don't see a lot, especially not back then. So you just take your hat off to guys like that are able to play that long.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Predators and Roman Yossi, who is expected to play in his 1,000th NHL game tonight against the Senators. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 1025 The Game. Coming up next, Elliotte Friedman, Sportsnet NHL insider, will join us. We'll talk to him about Roman Yossi and go around the NHL with our friend Elliotte Friedman. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. We are live at Bridgestone Arena. David James is broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live at Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators will host the Ottawa Senators coming up at 7 o'clock. Pregame at 6 right here on 102.5 The Game. And to help us talk Predators and NHL, we go to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com and welcome in our friend Elliotte Friedman, Sportsnet NHL insider, who joins us every week and is presented by Old National Bank. Get Old. Hi, Elliotte. How are you?
Good, Adam. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thank you for asking. So, a big night here for the Predators. Roman Josi expected to play in game number 1,000. We've all had the opportunity to watch his career up close and personal. I'm curious for your opinion. How would you contextualize Roman Josi's career to date?
Well, first of all, every time I see Roman Josi, good looking, dressed perfectly, I feel like less of a man. That is the first thing.
You're not alone in feeling that way.
You know, like the thing I like about Josi is I always remember just the first thing you noticed before you saw the talent is just what a beautiful skater he is. That, you know, there are some guys, like the guy I always used to love watching when I was at a game was Scott Niedermayer, who's the Hall of Fame defenseman from the New Jersey Devils and one of the greatest winners in the history of the sport. He won a Stanley Cup. He won an Olympic gold medal. He won a Memorial Cup Canada Junior. He won, he just won everything. He won everything there was to win. And I would see Scott Niedermayer skate up ice and the puck would go the other way and he'd beat almost everybody back to go back and get the puck. He was back in position. And that's what I always felt like when I was watching with Josi. Like, his skating looked so effortless. He was such a beautiful skater. And you always believe if somebody can skate like that, they've got a chance. And then you realized, you know, what a great offensive player he was. You realized how skilled he was. And I think the other thing you noticed is that their coaches, you were very lucky in the sense that the guys you had coaching in Nashville, they recognized that Josi deserved a different leash and some different rules than anyone else. Like, every team has to have structure and every team has to have things that they do well that are non-negotiable. But there was always a sense that, hey, if Roman wanted to do this, he can do that. Not everybody can do that, but he can because he was such a great skater. And I love watching him skate. I love watching the way he plays, but mostly, again, I think of what a lesser man I am in his presence.
We've all been there. So, of course, Elliotte, a lot of Predators fans are wondering when Roman Josi's career comes to an end, if he has a worthwhile case to enter the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's won the Norris Trophy. He's been a finalist 2 other times. He leads the Predators all time in points. He's going to become tonight, I think, the 84th player in NHL history to play 1,000 games with a single franchise. So when you look at his career resume, do you think it's Hall of Fame worthy?
Yeah, and because the thing is, like, it's not over yet, Adam, right? He's got a Norris Trophy. He's got a trip to the finals. Like, I think that, unfortunately, the last couple of years, it's been slowed by a couple of injuries. But I think that if he is able to finish strong, absolutely he's going to be in the conversation. Shea Weber never won a Norris, and it didn't prevent him from going in. And so I look at it as, in a lot of ways, because the media doesn't vote for the Hall of Fame in hockey. You take a look, we're going through the baseball voting. It was just announced last week. There's a lot of media perception there. But the Hockey Hall of Fame is 18 people. They don't release their voting, and they look at the impact of the player to them. And so, like I think if you get the right mix of people, like, first of all, I think as the Predators get better, his case will increase again. But I think if he finishes up strong, I don't see why that committee of people wouldn't look at a guy like Roman Josi and say he can be in the Hall of Fame. There's no reason, or he can't be in the Hall of Fame. There's no reason to me that he would be excluded.
Elliotte, the opponent tonight, the Ottawa Senators, they're coming off of a win in Columbus 2 nights ago, but the Senators have been in a bit of a firestorm lately, having to deal with a salacious rumor about the team, and it did appear that it took something out of them. How do you feel like the team has responded as they head to Nashville tonight?
I think that they had a big win the other night. You know, Columbus had done really well ever since they changed head coaches. They'd won a few games in a row, and Ottawa stopped that. I think the big thing that's a bit of a surprise to me, Adam, is that they went out and they signed James Reimer, who had played 2 games this year. He didn't play the first half of the season. He went to an international tournament over Christmas that's played in Switzerland called the Spengler Cup, and he played 2 games for Canada. And they were so desperate, Ottawa, for goaltending that they brought him in. And he played 1 game in the American Hockey League in Belleville, Ontario. And I know somebody who was at that game, and they said, boy, I like Reimer, but he's rusty. He's not ready for this yet. But Ottawa was desperate. They needed a save. Like, we had a stat in our broadcast last Saturday, Adam, that Ottawa had the worst save percentage in the NHL in the last 30 years.
Wow.
30 years. And so they put him in, and I give him credit. He's battled, and he's won a couple games in a row, and he's giving them a chance. Like, you know, Adam, I know you're a big underlying numbers guy. I see the way you work with the numbers. Ottawa's underlying numbers are actually pretty good.
Yes,
like, that's a good team, but they cannot stop a puck. And I think that they had a chance to really go off the rails between that rumor, which, you know, they kind of keep bringing up, which I watched the interview with Ullmark this week, and Claire Hanna did a phenomenal job, and I could tell that if Ullmark wanted to do it, they weren't going to be able to stop it. But on the other hand, you're like, okay, don't keep letting this breathe. But I thought the other night was kind of the first night they kind of moved on and put it behind them. And now we'll see if they can do a bit better tonight.
Talk with Elliotte Friedman, 32 Thoughts podcast. Now, Elliotte, what are you seeing different from this team? Because this team was hot in the month of December, cooled off just a tad bit here in the month of January. But are you seeing anything different from those 2 months? And if you are, is it sustainable moving forward?
You're talking about the Predators here,
Yeah,
Derek?
the Predators. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, like, the one thing is, and kind of we just talked about with Ottawa, Saros has been unbelievable. Like, he's been really good. I think that when you have that, you're always in a better spot. So there's a guy who used to coach the Flyers, the Canucks, and the Rangers, Derek. His name is Alain Vigneault, and he's from Quebec, so he's a bit Frenchier. So he used to have a line that he would say, if my goaler is better than your goaler, I win. If your goaler is better than my goaler, you win. That was his line. That's how he would explain hockey. And so Saros being as good as he's been, that's made a huge difference. Obviously I think Evangelista is one guy that people have told me has been a lot better. Stamkos has obviously been a lot better. I think even Yossi, I would say, unless you guys disagree with me, I think he's really come too. I thought he was maybe a bit rusty at the beginning of the year or when he came back. And I think your best players have been better. O'Reilly's been consistent. And I think I talked about this with you guys before. I think the one thing that really stood out is that you guys didn't fall apart as a team. You pulled together. And it's a close room, and I've seen situations when things go sideways where the team falls apart. And I think your players deserve a lot of credit because they didn't allow your season to fall apart. And we've talked about the changes that Stamkos has made. I just think a lot of guys have been a lot better since the beginning of the year, which is ultimately what makes you win. Now, Derek, this is a really streaky league. I can't believe how streaky a lot of these teams are. You guys had the hot stretch. You got the bad loss in Vegas. I get that. That was the night after Colorado. There's a lot of teams that have done sort of that Colorado, Utah, Vegas back-to-back, and they've been smoked in the second half of that game. So that doesn't bother me. But you come home, you lose the other night. you got to stop it. You can't let a 2-game or 3-game losing streak become 5. But this has become a really streaky league.
Talking to Elliotte Friedman, 32 Thoughts, the podcast, Hockey Night in Canada. Elliotte, I've got one more historical question on Josi for you. And I want to take you back to the 2017 finals when the Predators made it, and they had their top 4 defensemen, PK Subban, Matthias Ekholm, Ryan Ellis, Roman Josi. So when I look back at Josi's career, I look at him as one of a group of an elite quartet or whatever you want to call it for a long time. First Weber and then Subban. And then when all those guys were suddenly gone, he's still been able to sort of carry the torch. But back in 2017, like when you looked at the Predators roster, where was Roman Josi in the pecking order on that team in particular? Because I look at him as part of the group then, but now you could almost make the argument he's on track to maybe being the greatest player in franchise history.
I know Weber was gone by then. I'm a Shea Weber geek. I am. I don't deny it. I always had a great admiration. I just remember players like the Blackhawks who used to torment you guys until you guys finally pounded them in that one playoff series. People would the Blackhawks would tell me that when Weber put his leg over the bench, he was about to come on, the game changed. He wasn't even on the ice yet, but everybody was looking for that second leg to come over the bench. So I admit to being a bit of a Weber geek.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that's where the franchise was, right? Like with Rene and Weber, and on the heels of Suter at Weber, right? Josi was thrown in there with Weber, and so he was not. He didn't have the hype that any of those guys had, right?
Yeah, he didn't. He absolutely didn't. But the thing is that PK was a great player who brought a lot of energy. He just wasn't obviously there for a long time. Ellis got hurt. The thing about Josi, I think is incredible is he's the first, I believe, to do 1,000 games as a Predator, right?
Correct.
1 to 1,000. That matters. Willie, that matters to me. I remember years ago, Ottawa had a couple of number retirements. One was Chris Phillips and one was Chris Neal. And people were like, you're retiring the numbers for those guys? And I was like, be quiet. You don't get it. A market decides who matters to them. And Chris Phillips was a guy, a lot of players were leaving Ottawa. He stayed. Chris Neal did a lot of fighting for Ottawa and was great in the community. I think this is your first. It's your first to go from 1 to 1,000 in your uniform. He's great in the community. I think the guys who stay and never leave, you can say, hey, Weber got traded, wasn't his fault. You can take whatever argument you want. I just think there's always a romance between the guys who start and end and play that long there.
Totally agree on that. Let's get your thoughts on a current event here because it's tied in. Kiefer Sherwood, of course, sort of resurrected his career as a Predator. They made the decision to walk away. He signs a deal in Vancouver. He does even better, and now he's been traded to the Sharks. What did you think of the return that the Sharks paid Vancouver for Kiefer Sherwood, and what's next for him?
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty normal return for a rental. It'll be interesting if he re-signed. The Sharks knew the price going in. I think Sherwood's looking for something around 5 times 5. Just before they traded him, the Canucks offered 5 times 4, and it was a no. So I think that's kind of what he's looking at. We'll see. But as a rental, the Canucks were looking for a first rounder for him. They weren't getting San Jose's first rounder. That was too high. They were hoping for a late first rounder. They got 2 seconds. I think that's pretty reasonable. It's an interesting bet, Willie, because, depending on if San Jose falters, which I'm not convinced they're going to, but if San Jose falters, that second rounder could be pretty close to a first rounder. So there's not a huge difference. So they'll take the gamble with 2 of them. We'll see. Sherwood's going to be in a great spot. He's going to be playing with Macklin Celebrini. Like, I would like to say I would score 20 goals with Macklin celebrating, but I'm not sure he's even that good. But Sherwood, a talented guy, is going to do really well with him. And it was a great spot for him. They wanted him. They really liked him. I'm just not sure what the extension is going to look like or when we get there.
It just shows what an interesting career path somebody can have. Like Sherwood was a minor league pickup by the Predators. He had some ups and downs for 2 years. Even the year he broke out 2 years ago, he was a healthy scratch for, I don't know, close to a quarter of the season. And then here he is, you're talking about 5 times 5. That's a great success story for a guy who stayed after.
And you know what? I like to see people do well, Willie, so I hope he gets it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great guy, too.
Elliotte,
really nice guy.
And a couple more for you. Last season, when we asked you about Jonathan Marchessault and if he could be traded by the Predators, you mentioned to us that his preference would be to go to another team in a no-tax state. Do you believe that remains his preference?
I haven't looked into it, so I don't want to. I haven't looked into it. The last time I asked, that's what I heard. I can't say that that's changed, but I'll be honest with you, Adam. I haven't asked.
Fair enough. The other question, the last one I have for you, you saw how Mitch Marner was received by visiting Maple Leafs fans last week in Vegas. So what are you expecting tomorrow when Marner and the Golden Knights visit Toronto?
Well, I actually just wrote a piece today I spent about the last week or so just calling around to everyone I could think of about kind of how it went from, like, when Marner was drafted, like, he was so happy to be a Leaf and he was a huge success story. Like, the guy who ran the Leafs draft at the time was a guy by the name of Mark Hunter. And people were saying, don't take him. Like, there were 2 defensemen that were available. One was Noah Hanifin and one was Ivan Provorov. Werenski was too, but they weren't as big on him. And people wanted them to take the D. And he was like, no. He says, as far as I can tell in my contract, I have this choice. And he's like, they're like, you're right, you do. And he goes, we're taking Marner. And Mark Hunter was right about that. It was like people didn't want him to do it. He did it. You know, unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And I think part of the reason was that Marner was so sensitive. And he just, like, some people just are. And he was unfortunately surrounded by some people who, like, just couldn't let go of any perceived slight. I think it's a shame. Like, honestly, it's Vegas's win, but he should have gone down as the greatest Toronto-born Leaf of all time. Like, someday Nashville's going to develop a kid who's going to be an all-time great Predator. And it's going to be a huge success for the organization in the region, and everybody in the area is going to love that kid. Marner should have been that guy in Toronto. And I think everybody deep down regrets it. I don't think everyone admits it, but I think it's finally got to a point, like at the end last year when they got knocked out, a really ugly second-round loss to Florida. They could and should have beaten them. And they got destroyed in Game 5 at home. They got destroyed in Game 7 at home. And someone posted his address online. And, you know, Marner's wife was pregnant. They were going to have, I think they just had the kid by then, or right around then. And I think that was it. And, you know, I think it's really a shame. I don't think it's going to be a great environment tomorrow night, I'll be honest. But to me, I see it as more of a shame. He should have gone down as the greatest Toronto-born Leaf ever.
Elliotte Friedman, Sportsnet NHL Insider, has been our guest on D-Mace. Vingan and Donick. He joins us every Thursday during hockey season and is presented by Old National Bank. Get old. Elliotte, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
All right, guys. Take good care.
615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction to Elliotte Friedman and the Predators, who are in action tonight against the Ottawa Senators. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6 right here on 1025 The Game. But coming up next, we played some clips yesterday of Jeffrey Simmons' interview with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton on Bussin' with the Boys. Derek has a couple more thoughts on what Simmons had to say, and we will get to those coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
the way Cali wanted to lead and the way he was leading, it wasn't so much of like, I'm finna be hard on your ass, like this is like for real, like, you know, the hard truth sometimes, I think.
Right.
And I think we was
Be
kind
trying to
of,
build on good moments and hey, you see what you
yeah,
can
it's
do?
like, no, hell no. I mean, and I remember, and me and I'm sure McCoy don't mind me sharing this, like, you know, it was one game, we ended up losing the game, and I was pissed. The comment that was in the locker room a little bit, and because I think, yes, TP was having like a rough year, and, you know, I think he ended up breaking, you know, he had a good game to where, I mean, we had, I wouldn't say a good game. I don't think we had 100 rushing yards, but
TP's Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was one of them games to where they was kind of congratulating some guys in the locker room. And I'm like, what the are we talking about? Like, we just got beat, and we didn't have over 100 rushing yards, but we congratulating certain guys in the O-line. What do we do?
That was Jeffrey Simmons on Bussin' with the Boys. That interview released earlier this week. A really good listen. We played some clips yesterday, but Derek, you went back and listened to the interview. You had some more thoughts on what Jeffrey Simmons had to say as it relates to the Titans culture.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed by the way he was describing it that culture, they didn't even have one to start. And at no point did Brian Callahan was he able to establish a culture. And that was sort of the interesting part, is because he even talked about at the beginning of the season, meetings and guys sitting in young guys sitting in the back, and the team not really having, it's like this we know what to do with Vrabel, but we quite don't know what's really going on with Callahan. So it seemed, at least it seemed like, again, the writing was on the wall. And if the writing's on the wall already, how do you expect the team to follow a man they know will no longer be here? It's just, it's a matter of time before he's gone. How do you then, go all out for an individual like that? Or how do you then buy into what he's saying? Because he's basically the hat without any power. That's what he is, because he's a lame duck coach, and he's going to be gone. It may be at the end of the season, but he's going to be gone. So that was interesting to me, for them to that quickly know, at least from a player standpoint, that he's not the dude. And it almost sounded like they knew that when he first got hired and he walked into the meeting room the first year. And I'm thinking, like, man, they had to go, like, there was never a time where they didn't all just buy into what he was preaching. It doesn't seem like they ever did, because he was totally the opposite of Vrabel. And they needed that team, for whatever reason, they needed a Vrabel type coach moving forward. And they didn't get that in Callahan. They got their best friend, a guy that wanted it be, from how they explained it, a guy that would rather be your friend than to coach you hard. And I'm not saying that Callie didn't coach them hard, but that's the vibe that I'm getting. Like, he wanted to make sure everybody was okay.
And to your point, that's why the Titans apparently hired Diet Vrabel, as I called him yesterday. Vrabel, zero sugar. I don't know. Because Robert Saleh and Mike Vrabel are not the same coach. But as I said yesterday, they are of a similar genre. They have a presence about them. They look like football players. They look like the type of dudes who like getting down and dirty. We know that Mike Vrabel, he'd like to line up at practice and all that stuff, right? I don't know if Robert Saleh also does that. I guess we'll find out together. But the key question is, Derek, can Robert Saleh be the guy who does the things that Jeffrey Simmons said was missing in that clip and others with Brian Callahan?
If the Robert Saleh that coached the San Francisco 49ers show up, then yeah. But if the Robert Saleh that showed up in New York without the personality, his personality, him trying to be somebody else or something contrary to who he is by nature, then it's not going to work. Because again, the guys see through it, man. They see through it. So the best thing he can do is just walk in there and be himself. And if himself is getting on guys, holding guys accountable, that's what it's about. Is you got a bunch of guys that feel that, and I know people, it may sound crazy because they're not children. Children want structure. They want it. As much as they fight it, they want it. I know some people are thinking, well, grown men, they should know what structure looks like. They should hold themselves accountable. But a lot of times, you want to know what? It ain't that way. You got to hold grown folks accountable too, to doing their job. Because if you don't, slowly but surely, they will allow things to start to slide, or they will give a pass for a certain thing. From what I'm gathering, Vrabel didn't do that. Vrabel wasn't every time. He even Jeffrey even said, like, listen, there were times where we had fun, we did this, but the minute he thought that y'all were getting too full of yourselves, he reined it back in. You're able to do that. You can't walk around being a nice guy. So if Saleh's able to come in and be himself, the guy that we saw get into a confrontation with Liam Cohen.
Yes.
If that guy shows up and coach the Titans, I feel good.
I gotta find exactly what Robert Saleh told Liam Cohen. By the way, you get that matchup twice every year now in the AFC South. So if I recall correctly, Saleh before the game against the Jaguars, like, subtly accused Liam Cohen of signal stealing. I think that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But they met on the field at the end of the game. I'm going to read you the clean transcript. And keep in mind, picture Liam Cohen in your mind, Duval, that guy. And then picture Robert Saleh in your mind. And keep that in mind as I tell you what they said. Liam Cohen apparently said, keep my name out of your mouth. Keep my name out of your effing mouth. Tough guy talk.
You know why?
Why?
I just know. No wonder. He's from Detroit. No wonder he has the personality.
Saleh?
You know what? Yeah.
Yes.
You know what?
Dearborn, Michigan.
You know what? This is the right hire, and I'm biased.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't. I didn't even think about it. I knew he went to Northern Michigan or something like that. And he was right around the same time I was. I think right after I graduated, he went to Northern Michigan. I believe it was Northern Michigan. Yes. But man, I didn't. Outside of that, I didn't think that he was from the state of Michigan. But yeah, he is. Dearborn, man.
So Liam Cohen, keep my name out of your mouth.
All right, that's
keep
right.
Keep my name out of your effing mouth. That was Liam Cohen to Robert Saleh, and that's big tough guy talk. Listen to what Robert Saleh said in response. I'll F your world up. You don't want to F with me. I will effing end your effing life. End quote.
Hey, I like Saleh.
That sounds really nice.
And he a Michigan State guy too. I like Saleh. He didn't go to Michigan State, but he coached at Michigan State. I like Saleh.
And one look at Robert Saleh, and as Mo says on our text line, Saleh would manhandle Liam Cohen. That's my point. One look at Robert Saleh, and he may be able to effing end your effing life. So we'll see that matchup twice a year now in the AFC South. Randy on our text line says, I wish Taylor Lewan had thought to ask Jeffrey this question. What would Vrabel had done if he was the coach when Jeff had his episode during Callahan's first year? I assume the fight in practice.
Jeff would have got kicked out of practice.
And what was his thought when Callahan did nothing?
He'd have got kicked out of practice. And see, that's the thing. That's the sort of, when that happened, and we talked about it a lot that day. When that happened, and then the next following year, the whole thing with Buck happened, and it was almost dismissed by the head coach. After it happened the first time, the fight, you should have kicked him out of practice. I'm like, again, it's not about Jeff being a bad guy or anything. It's just about setting a precedent, because in the game, if you fight, you get thrown out. There's no, you're Jeffrey Simmons, we're not going to throw you out. The minute you throw a punch, you get thrown out, and you can't say anything about it. Practice is the same way. Jeff Fisher was that way. Harbaugh was that way. Billick was that way. When you fight, you're out. So when he didn't throw Jeffrey out, I knew it. He didn't have a backbone to do it. He did, and Jeff knew it. And everybody else around him knew it. He wasn't the guy for the job. And hopefully not. Saleh seems to me, you fight in practice, you're gone. It doesn't mean I don't like you. It doesn't mean I don't think you're a great player, but we have rules in this game. This game is a lot of it is being disciplined in what you do. And if you can't be disciplined in practice, how do I expect you to be disciplined in the game? So I got to kick you out, Jeffrey. I know you're a 2-3-time All-Pro. I got to kick you out. I think if it happens now, you kick Jeffrey out. But I don't think Jeff will allow that to happen because he wouldn't get into a fight.
You can tell in the clips we've played that Jeffrey Simmons already has a lot of respect for Robert Saleh.
Absolutely.
We played a clip earlier in the show that at the end of the game between the Niners and the Titans late in the regular season, as they were dapping it up, Simmons said to Saleh, so you're going to come to Tennessee next year? So Simmons wanted Saleh to be the next head coach.
All
so,
defensive players want a defensive head
well,
coach.
of course. But what I'm saying is,
no, I get you.
There's already that built-in respect.
Yes.
I can't say this for sure, but I would assume that Jeffrey Simmons isn't going to F around and find out.
No, I don't think he's going to F around and find out. Because, again, one thing that I do know is when you have a new head coach, your leaders have to buy in quickly. Because if your leaders buy in, everybody else is going to follow. If your leaders are hesitant, what do you think everybody else is going to do? They're going to be hesitant. In a minute, guys didn't see Jeffrey get thrown out of practice. They were like, okay, this is okay. We can do things like this. Okay. You can't do it this go around. I'm assuming you can't do it this go around because he has to set a standard. And whether you are the first or the 52nd guy on the roster, or 51st, how many ever guys on this on rosters now, you're going to be treated the same in regards to the rules of the game. When we're on the field, you fight in practice, you get thrown out. I don't care who you are. You could be the starting quarterback. You start fighting, you get thrown out. Because you start fighting in a game, I can't save you.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on Robert Saleh, who is now officially the Tennessee Titans head coach. It was announced around 2:30 p.m. today that Robert Saleh's hiring has been made official by the team. He will hold his first news conference as Titans head coach next Wednesday, January 28th at 2 p.m. here in Nashville. 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction and wrap up the show. Coming up next, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. If you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your motorcycle accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or nothing at all, but Law Tigers fights to get you the compensation you deserve, and they don't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you and means to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. So call 1-800-LAW TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Friedman and Fusion. You can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South, Nashville, Tennessee. And also, do not forget, go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predator Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers and Music City Indian. Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Predators pregame with Max Hers coming up at the top of the hour. Predators versus Senators tonight at 7 o'clock. Roman Josi expected to play in his 1,000th NHL game, becoming the 84th player in NHL history to play 1,000 games with a single franchise. An incredible accomplishment. So congratulations to Roman Josi. The plan is to honor him officially on Saturday. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with that game, though, with all of this weather?
Exactly.
God, I hate snow so much. I just hate it. I know you said yesterday you broke up with snow a long time ago. I was never together with snow. I kept snow at arm's length.
I embraced snow for a good while, but then I realized, the grass is green on the other side. So I said, nope, I'm done with you.
I prefer my grass green and not covered in snow.
Absolutely.
And frost and ice. And who the hell knows what's going to happen this weekend. Be safe and make sure that you're all prepared for whatever the hell this weekend
cook
has.
Some chili or some stew this weekend.
My wife's making chili tonight.
Are you? I thought about making chili tonight too.
Well,
there we go.
Great minds think alike.
Absolutely.
That's what they say. So Robert Saleh officially announced as the Titans' next head coach. We've known this for like 3 days, but it's now official. The Tennessee Titans have recognized the fact that Robert Saleh is their next head coach. He will be introduced to the media next Wednesday afternoon. Some staff changes were also reported today. Offensive coordinator Nick Holtz, defensive coordinator Denard Wilson are out, but special teams coordinator John Bones Fossil is expected to remain on the staff. No surprises there. Denard Wilson made the best out of a terrible situation. It was a skeleton crew out there by the end of the regular season. So many players injured, out of the lineup. So Denard Wilson, I'm sure he's going to land on his feet. I know he's interviewed for other jobs. Nick Holtz, quite frankly, I don't really know what he did, especially after Brian Callahan gave up play calling duties and gave them to the quarterback's coach, Bo Hardigree. So a non-play calling offensive coordinator. I'm not a huge fan of those, which I guess is good. Why it's good that they didn't hire Matt Nagy, because Matt Nagy technically is a non-play calling offensive coordinator with the Kansas City Chiefs. I am curious to see where Nagy ends up, though, after all of you and, me a little bit assumed that Matt Nagy was going to be the head coach here. I do wonder where he could end up. I saw he interviewed, I want to say, in Philadelphia the other day. I'm sure he's going to end up with it. Yeah. I know he's going to end up with the job. I'm just wondering where.
Yes, yet to be seen where he ultimately ends up. But going back to this, Denard Wilson, like you said, I think Denard will find him another job quickly, because I think he did the best job he could under the circumstances, meaning the roster. And as they went on, it just got more and more depleted because of injuries. But I think he still had the defense prepared each and every week. It was just, it got to a point where, they just couldn't hold up anymore. The one that I'm interested in, if they keep or not, it would have been crazy for them to get rid of Bones Fossil. I mean, that would have been one of the most, that would have been a head scratcher had they done that. But what do they do with Bo Hardigree? Because you can contribute. If you don't want to contribute it to McCoy, you can contribute, Cam's second half success to Bo Hardigree, and whatever was being taught to him and how he developed within the system that they were running, because he did look like a different quarterback the second half of the season than he did the first half. And, I'm going to attribute it to, the relationship he and Bo Hardigree had. So that's another one. I wonder if they're going to keep Bo Hardigree.
I've wondered about
as the quarterback's coach.
Yeah, I've wondered about Hardigree as well. I guess that will be left up to the offensive coordinator, and that's the biggest remaining question. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network reported earlier today that the Titans continue to work through OC options, and he named Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, Adam Stenovich, and Bobby Slowick among the potential options. So who knows if it will be from that pool, but those are 5 names with varying degrees of experience, both as head coaches and offensive coordinators. We'll see what happens there. The 5 finalists, Derek,
Yes.
for the MVP in the NFL: Christian McCaffrey, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, and Matthew Stafford. Thoughts?
I think Matthew Stafford, if you look at the numbers, frankly, if you look at, how he's carried that team, they've had injuries across the board, offensively, defensively. There was questions about whether Matthew Stafford would be able to hold up the whole season because of the back situation. And he did nothing. He's done nothing but, be Superman for his team. One of the toughest quarterbacks out there. And he's played at an MVP level, it seems like, the whole season. Without him, I'm not sure where the Rams would be, truly, because he's been that consistent guy underneath center, and he's done a hell of a job running that offense.
Are you surprised that Jeffrey Simmons is not a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year?
That's remarkable.
Will Anderson, Nick Bonito, Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson, Micah Parsons.
That's a slap. That's disrespectful to Jeffrey. I mean,
he had a fabulous season.
There's no, outside of just the Titans not having a good season, there's no way in hell Jeffrey's name shouldn't at least be on the finalists. He was the most dominating interior guy in the National Football League.
Yes.
By far the most dominating guy. And for him to be on the All-Pro team, but not be in a finalist for the Defensive Player of the Year, come on. That's just, that's bad.
Coach of the Year: Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Vrabel.
McCoy's not on there?
No, Mike McCoy was ineligible. I don't know.
That's a surprise. I thought he would be first ballot.
I don't know if interim coaches are eligible for Coach of the Year awards.
Yes, they are. I forgot what coach almost won.
I say that tongue in cheek, of course.
Yeah. I forgot what coach. It was some years ago. Say the coaches again.
Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Vrabel.
Oh man, I think it's going to be a tough choice. I would tend to pick probably Liam Cohen first, Vrabel second. But
it's a tough choice.
Yeah, it's a tough choice. Even Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think what's going to happen is Vrabel may end up winning it. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's done a hell of a job.
I think we'll talk about Mike Vrabel tomorrow.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Mike Vrabel
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I think we should. I think he's done a hell of a job in New England. And he's well deserving of not only winning, but definitely being a nominee. But he's well deserving on winning Coach of the Year this year, if indeed he does win.
Comeback Player of the Year: Trevor Lawrence, Christian McCaffrey, Stephon Diggs, Aiden Hutchinson, Dak Prescott.
Man, that's I would lean toward. Dak was hurt last year, didn't he? Did he get hurt? What part of this? He missed the last?
Let's take a look. Dak Prescott,
6 games of the season.
He played 8 games last season.
So he missed half the season.
Yes.
And who else? There was somebody else on there that I.
Trevor Lawrence, Christian McCaffrey, Stephon Diggs, Aiden Hutchinson, Dak Prescott.
Gosh, I'm picking Dak. I could throw Trevor in there. They had a hell of a season.
It's about whether you value, hey, someone got hurt, dealt with a serious injury, and bounced back, or someone had a really down season in general and completely turned things around.
I think to me is more so the.
Or you could be
hurt.
Joe Flacco, who played
Joe
like 3 games off the couch and won comeback player of the year.
I love Joe, but he shouldn't have won that. But if you're talking about Aiden Hutchinson, may end up winning it because Aiden missed the whole season, didn't he, last year?
That's a good question.
Or majority of the season, not this past season, but the season before that with that knee injury, and they didn't know.
He played 5 games last season.
It may end up being Hutch that wins it.
Yeah.
Let's
see the other awards.
And I hate saying that about a Michigan guy, but he's with the Lions. So
offensive player of the year: Puka Nacua, Bijan Robinson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Drake May, and Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, man, that's a good one. They all meant a lot to their team. Puka may end up winning it.
And this will come as a shock to absolutely no one, but Cam Ward is not in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jackson Dart, Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson, Ted McMillan, Tyler Shuck.
And that's again why Cam played all but
he started
three
all
quarters.
17 games. Yep.
In the second half of the season, I think he was playing better than Jackson Dart, much better than Jackson Dart. Again, this is disrespectful. I'm not saying he should have won. He should win. I don't think he should win. But to put Jackson Dart, again, I don't understand this. I don't. I don't get it, man. I don't. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, will end up winning.
Well, he'll be the offensive player of the year. He's not a rookie.
Yeah, not the rookie. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rookie, wide receiver. You said
Egbuka.
wide receiver. Yeah, Egbuka, yes.
From Tampa Bay. Well, that'll do it for us today. The Predators are back in action tonight at 7 o'clock against the Ottawa Senators. Max High Maintenance Hers has pregame coverage for you coming up in 5 minutes. A special night in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena. Roman Josi expected to play in game number 1,000. As someone who had the privilege to cover Roman Josi for more than 7 years, I'm very happy for him. He's a wonderful person. He's a great hockey player. So Predators fans, make sure you give Roman Josi a rousing ovation when he takes the ice tonight. He deserves it. We will talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Thursday. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music, don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. See you tomorrow, 3 p.m. from the studio on 102.5 The Game. Peace.